Hello, thanks for joining Solar United Neighbors Solar and EV Charger Co-op information session. I'm Ben Hoyne with Solar United Neighbors. We're going to give it just one minute, 2 minutes, let folks kind of hop on here. We will get going shortly. Thanks for joining.
We don't have anyone here.
All right. The bad weather is where the co-op is happy. So the people tuning in might be dealing with some severe weather. It seems like we're right on the fringe and it's not really happening. But in Hampton Roads, that's where it's supposed to be worse.
I got alert this morning of like possible tornadoes and stuff here, like late afternoon, but
Nada.
nothing happens.
All right, I'll give it a minute and then I'll just get going. Sometimes people join in the middle and we'll send it out to everybody.
Okay, so you want to do it and not just send a copy, even if it's just us.
We got Johnny on.
That's true.
I mean, I'll start, and if they're like 15 minutes in and there's nobody, then or maybe when I turn it over to you for questions, you can kind of update me at the first break.
Um,
because I don't want to wait for someone to start, because then we'll be here until 8:30.
Oh yeah, I meant just can it and send out. I assume we have other recorded versions of this.
We did this a month ago, so
yeah, so we could just send out that one.
I mean, I would say we need to give it at least 5 minutes.
Yeah, great. Johnny, come back and talk with us until.
Okay, I'm here. I was just trying to find out where that background was that you had when you turned off your camera, but anyway.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get it going.
Cool.
Yeah.
It looks good if somebody shows midstream, and yeah, if we're at the first break, if nobody's joined, then we'll can it. And this way, Johnny gets a little taste, of the Virginia magic that we got going on here. So. Because there's no North Carolina magic as of yet. So this is the closest you're going to get.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. Here we go. Hello, good evening. My name is Ben Hoyne. I am the Virginia Program Director for Solar United Neighbors. I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening. This is our Hampton Roads 2023 Solar and EV Charger Co-op information session. We'll be here for about an hour. I'm joined by my colleague, Roger Horowitz, who will be answering questions in the chat. So feel free to ask questions in the chat if you have any of those. Also want to make sure you're aware that this webinar is being recorded. That way, if you have any questions, after the fact, or you have any friends or family, neighbors, etc., that are interested, you're certainly able to send this webinar to them. We will be emailing it to you tomorrow. A little bit about Solar United Neighbors. We are a vendor-neutral national 501c3 nonprofit. We've got programs in 13 areas. Most of those are states, but also a federal district in Washington, D.C., and then a territory in Puerto Rico. And we also help folks nationwide through our help desk services. And you can contact our help desk anytime. Roger actually helps provide services there as well. And we bring together people to address barriers to information, red tape, technology, policy, and so much more. And we represent solar owners and consumers, as well as prospective solar owners and consumers. We got our start pretty organically back in 2007. Our founder, Anya Schoolman, there in the sunglasses in the middle, her son, Walter, and friend Diego in the photo. They came home and said, "Mom, we want to go solar." Well, they looked into it and found that it was pretty overwhelming. There was only 2 solar installation companies in Washington, D.C. at the time, and they were getting different information about prices, about how panels fixed on the roof, about permitting, all sorts of different things. And so Anya said, "You know what, Walter and Diego, if we're going to go solar, there is so much to work through. We need to build a group and kind of divide and conquer, and we need the help of our neighbors." And so Walter and Diego enlisted 100 of their neighbors in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood in Washington, D.C. And after 2 years of going through all these various barriers, 50 homes ended up going solar in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood in 2007. Well, that attracted a whole bunch of press attention, and other folks started calling Anya and said, hey, we want to do this in our neighborhood. How do we make this happen? And this kind of organically, that became a full-time job for Anya. And, now in 2023, so 15, 16 years later, as I mentioned, we have folks, members in all 50 states. We've got staff across 5 time zones, and we've run 397 solar co-ops to date in those 16 years. In Virginia specifically, we've helped 1,200 families in Virginia go solar, and just shy of 10 megawatts of solar installed in Virginia. Nationally, as I mentioned, we're in 13 states, districts, territories. We've helped over 8,000 families go solar, and 69 megawatts, so just shy of 70 megawatts. That is a utility scale size solar power plant that we have installed on rooftops across the country. And we also know that the rooftop solar lets communities invest locally, creates good local jobs, and brings control of the energy system within our reach. We're working towards a new energy system that everyone can participate in, one that's fair and equitable. Here's our organizational vision, or really our theory of change. We kind of have 3 major categories. One is go solar, which is what we're doing right now. We help people go solar. This particular one is our Hampton Roads Solar Co-op. We are installer and technology neutral. And then we join together. We have happy hours. Just yesterday, I was in Arlington and Alexandria, Northern Virginia, with a happy hour up there. We have a really robust listserv and Facebook page, and I'll ask Roger to drop links to those in the chat. And the Facebook page is as you might expect, but the listserv is really technical and wonky. There's a lot of experts on there. And so if you have a technical question on solar in Virginia, usually you can get it answered on our Virginia listserv page. And then we have folks fighting for energy rights. That's really our state level advocacy. At the General Assembly here in Richmond, I live in Richmond, and we are a nonpartisan policy rights organization. We know that solar is free, and a government monopoly utility company should not restrict your access to it. And so as we pass more laws and create a greater access to solar, more people then are able to go solar, and the cycle continues. Some of the things that we'll cover today, we'll talk about how solar co-ops work. We'll go over solar technology, batteries, and EV chargers, and then we'll finish up with the economics of solar. Do we have any questions in the chat so far, Roger?
No questions.
All right, keep trucking along. So what is a solar co-op? And why should you join it? Solar co-op is a voluntary buying group that leverages discounts. It's really your best value on installation. We're going to give you the tools to make an informed decision. We'll give you support throughout the process, connect you with fellow solar enthusiasts, and help you become part of a growing movement. What's really important to know is there is no obligation. You join the co-op, you're not under any obligation to go solar. You simply have the opportunity to go solar in the co-op, but ultimately you will make that decision between you and the solar installer. It's also really important to know that the group has a beginning and an end. And these co-op prices, like the discount prices that we're able to offer through the co-op, are limited to a limited time duration. We do have a co-op guide, and I'll ask Roger to drop that into the chat as well. And then there's the kind of the process of a solar co-op. We are in the very early stages where we're really learning, and we're getting folks to sign up and really need help spreading the word. We invite you to tell your friends and neighbors about the co-op. In a few months, we will be selecting the installer once we have 30 or so members in the co-op. And we will convene a group of you, anybody that wants to sit on a selection committee for a few hours one evening to go through all the various bids for the co-op. We will do that, and then that selection committee, again, made up of your friends and neighbors and you, if you want to be we'll select the single installer for the entire co-op. And then we'll kind of close the co-op in mid to late fall. There'll be a last chance to get into the co-op. Once you're in the co-op, you'll be contacted by the installer. Really, once we have the installer selected, they'll give you a customized proposal that fits to your house and to your needs. And then you'll have 30 days once you receive that proposal to choose to sign a contract or not sign that contract. Eventually, you'll get your system installed. Frankly, it's probably going to be about 6 months after you sign a contract. And then once everybody's installed, we'll have a party in Hampton Roads to help folks kind of come together and talk about solar and the installations that you have. Also moving on to solar technology. We're doing good, Roger?
Yep.
All right.
Thanks.
I just want to give you a baseline understanding of how solar panels work. Solar photovoltaic, or PV, converts solar energy to electricity. And that's really what we're talking about today. You can see the panel on the left. The important thing to know is that the solar cells are really well protected. You have glass protection. Usually panels, they used to be about 3 by 5, 3 feet by 5 feet. Now they're closer to 4 by 6. They can be about 40 pounds or a little bit over that in weight. And it's also important to know that it's measured in wattage, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. Also, panels generate electricity in DC or direct current. And back to that wattage and kilowatts, or kW. So as I mentioned, panels are measured in wattage. A single panel, I'm going to do some basic math here. You could have, let's say, a 300-watt panel. So we have 12 panels right here. So 12 300-watt panels would be 3.6 kW, or 3,600 watts, or 3.6 kW. That's important to know. It really doesn't matter how many panels you have. It's really more about the kW, which is kind of your power. Because to the point, you could have 400-watt panels, and you could have 9 of them, and that would also be 3.6 kW, or 3,600 watts. And so again, it's not how many panels you have, but it's how much wattage you have. And then separate from kW or kilowatts or wattage, the power is the electricity production, which is measured in kilowatt hours, or kWh. That's what you'll find on your electricity bill. If you look on your bill, you'll see 1,000 kWh or 1,500 kWh in a month. And that's how many kilowatts you used over a period of time. The average system size in Virginia, right here, we have 6 to 7 kW. It's a little bit larger than that, probably more like 7 to 8. But again, it's going to be based on your roof, on your home, on the electricity load, and also and the goals you have, whether to offset 100% of your usage or 50%. I have kids and an EV, and we have about a 5 kW system. It's fairly small, and it offsets about 50% of our electricity usage, which is great for us. But some folks are looking for 100%. I think the important thing to know is you do not need to offset all of your electricity when going solar. You certainly can if you have the roof space, etc., but it's not a requirement. After the panel, a really important thing is the inverter. The string inverters, you can see that's mostly used on ground mounts and commercials. So we're really going to be looking at string inverters with DC optimizer from some SolarEdge, and micro inverters, which are generally from Enphase. And those are the 2 most common inverter types. What the inverter does is it converts the electricity. As I mentioned, the panels generate electricity in direct current, or DC, but your home uses electricity in AC, or alternating current. So the inverters condition the electricity for usage in your home. And they're also kind of the brains of your system. If the power ever to go out or anything like that, and your inverters would be the one to sense it. And you'll get an app on your phone, and you'll be able to monitor the production of your solar array on your phone. And you can do that because the inverters are the ones that are telling you what's happening. That's really great. For an outage, or if you have a panel that's faltering, or for whatever reason, you don't have to get up on your roof and try to figure things out. You can simply look at your phone, look at the app on your phone, and you'll be able to tell what's happened and call the solar installer and have them come out and fix it. In addition to the inverters, it's really important to put the panels on the roof, and we do that through a racking system. This is a photo of an asphalt shingle roof, which is the most common roof type we have in Virginia. Very standard racking system here for an asphalt shingle roof. Additionally, if you have a standing seam metal roof or a rubber membrane roof, those are all also good for solar. The one roof type to flag as not a great fit for solar is slate. Slate is so fragile that many installers won't work on it at all. And the few installers that do usually have a significant upcharge to do so because it's very complex, because again, how fragile it is. Another important piece of your solar installation is your electrical panel. This is where the power from the solar array is going to connect into the power for your home. It's a pretty simple connection, but one of the first things that you'll hear from your solar installers, they're probably going to want a photo of your electrical panel. And the reason they're doing that is they need to see if you have room for a breaker and room for the amperage of the solar array. Usually that's going to be about a 240 breaker. And so most homes don't need a system upgrade, but if you do, that can certainly be accomplished as well through the co-op. There's also great tax credits for upgrading your electrical panels if you need to for electrification purposes, such as going solar. And how do you know if you have a good roof for going solar? It's more of an art than a science, but there's some important factors to look at. First thing is roof orientation. So which direction does the roof face? South is certainly the best, but many people do not have a south facing roof. West also works really well. You get that great afternoon sun, and east can work really well as well. The one kind of thing you don't want is due north. That's usually not recommended, but usually you have at least one roof slope that is suitable for solar. Additionally, you want to have little to no shading on the panels, especially in those kind of prime generation hours of 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You also need to have enough space to mount the panels. And that's not simply just for the panels, but you also need to have clearance for firefighters and fire codes. If you have chimneys or dormers or gables or anything else that's in the way as well, those could be, get in the way of your panels as well. So got to have enough usable space. And then finally, you don't need to have a new roof by any means, but you do want to have a newer roof that's largely undamaged. We recommend a minimum of 10 years of roof life remaining. And so those are kind of the important factors, because one of the biggest costs of solar is labor. And so having somebody have to go up and pull your system down in 5 years and store it while you get a new roof, that's just going to cost more money. If a roof doesn't work for you for whatever reason, another option is a ground mounted system. First and foremost, you need to have enough space to do this, right? You need to have yard space or what have you. A ground mounted system can be great for a couple of reasons. One, you can orient it towards the sun. And so you can get it, to face due south or something like that. So it increases the production. They're more efficient. However, it costs more. You have to build the frame, right? And so that's parts and material and labor, whereas your roof is already there. So you do need to build the structure. And then additionally, they're going to need to trench wire to the ground mounted system. We really don't recommend having it more than about 100 feet from the nearest meter because the cost for trenching can get really excessive. So frequently asked questions we get, what about warranties on panels? Kind of the industry standard is about 25 years of production warranty. Usually you're going to have 10 to 25 years on a manufacturer's defect, which is something like a piece of metal hanging off or whatever. Something that won't affect the production, but could just be a simple defect. Inverters now are warranted for usually, again, 10 to 25 years. And all this would be available to you from the solar installer when you are getting your proposal. Maintenance, the great thing about solar is you really don't have to do anything. You don't have to get up there and clean it. We get plenty of rain in Virginia. You don't have to shovel snow off it or anything. Actually, we don't want you to do that. We do not encourage that. Homeowners insurance, this will become part of your home. So you do need to add this to your homeowner's insurance. The good news is industry standard is that your insurance will either not increase or increase very slightly. If you do find that your homeowner's insurance company is quoting you a significant increase, I encourage you to shop around, because again, that's not the industry standard. Systems last 25 years at least, right? So the expectation is a minimum of 25 years of a lifespan. So it's a long investment, but a good one. You know, I really like to think of it as owning your electricity rather than renting it from your electrical utility, the same way that you would own a house rather than rent it. And so if you think of it from that perspective, it's a really great financial endeavor. Will HOA allow solar in your home? Certainly, we need to look into the specific HOA stuff, but one of the things we do when we fight for energy rights is we've made it more challenging for HOAs to prohibit, unduly prohibit solar. And so we need to look into your specific one, but generally HOAs usually do allow solar. And if you're in a historic district like Williamsburg or somewhere else, we encourage you to talk to the solar installer. They are very used to working with jurisdictions and can answer any of those questions about a specific historic district. And with that, I'll pause real quick, check in on Roger in the chat, see if we have any questions.
No questions.
All right, thanks so much. Now we'll go over some important terminology just to recap. We talked about the solar array. You can see the inverters on the back side of the panel, and then it flows down and then ultimately connects to the electrical panel. Your house has the right of first refusal for the electricity generated by the solar panel. So any electricity generated from the solar will go to your home first and foremost, and that'll be used to power your home. If there's not enough electricity generated by the panels, nighttime, cloudy days, rainy, what have you, then supplemental electricity will come from the grid. That's represented by the poles and wires that we see there, and that'll pass through your meter as it normally would, also in your electrical panel, and power your home. On the other side, if you have surplus electricity from your solar panels, you would again first and foremost power your home with that electricity, but then the surplus would feed out through the meter onto the poles and wires. And we call that net metering, right? So ultimately what net metering is, it's the net, right? The plus and the minus of electricity flowing through the meter. So you'll have a bidirectional meter, a meter that flows in two directions. So again, you generate electricity, excess flows onto the grid, flows onto the poles and wires, let's say during the day, and at night, you need to kind of use some of that down. It's really just a mathematical equation of how much went onto the grid during day versus how much electricity did you pull off the grid at night. And then at the end of the month, what's the difference there? What's the net of the meter calculation? And that'll determine your bill. The great news in Virginia is we have a 1-to-1 credit for net metering, and that means for all the electricity that your solar array puts onto the grid, you're getting a fair 1-to-1 credit, the same value as you are when you're pulling electricity off the grid. We have a net energy metering guide that I'll have Roger put into the chat. It's important to note that things fluctuate daily, right? There's going to be daily seasonal surpluses. There's more sun right now, right? We just had the solstice, a great time to generate solar electricity, but also in the summer, you start to use air conditioning more, which is going to use your electricity up more. The spring and the fall can also be a great time for electricity generation, because usually you're not using your HVAC as much. And HVAC, frankly, is one of the biggest electricity hogs in your house. And then in the winter, that's usually the worst time, right? The days are much shorter, so the period of sunlight is much shorter, it's not as strong. And if you have electric heat, especially, you'll probably be using more electricity than you're generating. And so ultimately the net metering is on an annual cycle. But again, it's monthly, it'll be updated, and you'll see that in your bill. Here's the most basic kind of concept of how net metering works. Let's say you consume 300 kilowatt hours a month, and these numbers are just an example, they're very low. 300 kilowatt hours a month doesn't matter where that electricity came from, but that's how much you consume. And your solar array produced 250 kilowatt hours a month. Again, doesn't matter if that was consumed in your home or on the grid. The difference is 50 kilowatt hours a month. And so your bill would be 50 kilowatt hours. Plus you have a little bit of a fixed connection charge in Dominion territory. It's about $7 or $8. If you do have a surplus, that's carried over month to month. And it's also important to know, as I mentioned, it is an annual cycle. It's not January 1st, but it's based on the day you were kind of given what's called PTO, or permission to operate, from Dominion. So kind of the day your system went live. Mine's in November, yours could be in March. And it's not a big deal on when it is, but it's just important to know it's not January 1. Another important thing to know is about power outages. It's kind of counterintuitive that if the power goes out, your solar system will automatically shut down. This is really a safety issue. You can imagine, as I mentioned, if your solar array is generating surplus electricity and sending electricity to the poles and wires, if the grid is down and there's somebody working on the line to restore power to your neighborhood, they could be electrocuted. And so the inverters, as I kind of mentioned, they're kind of the brains of your array. They're in constant communication with the grid, and they will detect that outage and they will automatically shut down. So when the power goes out, you will not have electricity, you will not have access to your solar. However, you do have an option if you want to. You can add batteries, and you could kind of, in essence, create what's called a closed loop or an island looping, to where your solar array and your batteries are separate from the grid during an outage. You would only be able to use, obviously, whatever's generated by the solar array or stored in the battery. It might not be enough to power your entire home, but it might be enough to power a room. Maybe you have a mini split. Your HVAC, again, is going to be the biggest challenge, or power a coffee maker and your Wi-Fi and a TV and a couple other little things, to at least keep some basic things going. But again, really important to stress that when the grid goes down, the solar will automatically shut off. If it's really important to you to have solar or have electricity during an outage, you should look into a battery. Batteries are very expensive. They can add tremendous cost to your solar array. But if you have a critical load, like a well pump or medical equipment or something you really can't live without, it might be worth it. Or if you work in kind of emergency preparedness and really need to have electricity, that could be something as well. And then, as I mentioned, it's really expensive, and they're also complex, right? I talked about how solar panels are really kind of maintenance free, not as much with batteries. There's just a lot more things happening there, a lot more things that can go wrong. So, but if you want to learn more about batteries, we have an entire hour-long webinar just on batteries, and I'll have Roger put that in the chat as well, and I'll pause for questions.
Thanks, Ben. We have a question from Patrick on, do we need to change our electric meter, if you go solar?
So you won't need to do anything. Dominion has been, if you're in Dominion territory, which I think most folks are, but Dominion has been kind of already changing meters out over the last few years. But if that hasn't happened in your case, then part of the permit approval process is that will take place while you're getting solar. So, sorry, I'm trying to fix the light here, but part of there's various permits that you have to get to go solar, right? So obviously you've got to get a permit from Dominion, permission from Dominion, and that meter swap will take place in there. Additionally, you have to get permits from the city or the county for the electrical work as well. So if there's a meter swap required, Dominion or your electric utility will take care of it, and that'll be after your system is installed, before you get permission to operate or PTO. And usually there's about 4 weeks in that window, and so they would come out and swap it out free of charge for that. All right. And then let's talk about EV chargers. You know, another great aspect of this co-op is that you can get an electric vehicle charger and you can power your car with sunshine. There's a great thing about an EV, you know, the numbers are really rough and they're kind of all over the place. So these are just estimates, but a great thing about an EV is you can hedge against rising fuel costs. And then that's whether you're, you know, powering it with solar or just powering it with the grid. You know, gas can cost you $1,800 a year. We're using $4 a gallon. Again, these are rough estimates, but an EV powered by solar, you can sometimes get 100 miles on 28 kilowatt hours, or if you're paying 11 cents, you know, you might spend $400. So again, it kind of depends on if you're using the grid or if you're using actual solar. But the most important thing to understand is obviously powering a car with electricity, wherever that electricity comes from, is a much better deal than gas. And so if you do want to get an EV charger as part of the co-op, it's a requirement to be offered. This would be a level 2 charger. So it's not a high-speed charger, not a super speed charger, but certainly more than kind of the slow charge or trickle charge that you would get from a 120 volt outlet. So this is a 240 volt outlet, kind of like your dryer or something like that. So about, yeah, up to 6 times as fast as standard outlet. So usually 10 to 30 miles an hour of charge. Your typical warranty is usually going to be about 3 years or so. If you're thinking about getting an EV charger as part of the co-op, you should think about where you want to put it. You know, do you want to mount it to a wall or do you need a pedestal? You will also need electrical service for this, you know, so 30 to 50 amps. So in addition, you're going to have your solar that's going to go in your electrical panel, and then separately your EV charger would also go in your electrical panel. You know, hooking it up to Wi-Fi network capability is something folks are doing a lot with these days. How long is the cord? Is it going to reach to charge? You know, is it public access? Do you live on a street where you've got some city property in there or something like that? Those are some of the important factors to think about. And again, usually the chargers could be anywhere from $1,000, $2,000. There's a great 30% federal tax credit up to $1,000 on an EV charger as well. Then finally, we're going to talk about the economics of solar. Costs have dropped tremendously since the 2010s, and you can see in this graph, obviously, night and day from the 1970s. Again, solar is a long-term investment. This is a no moving parts, 25-year lifespan. Again, this is like buying your electricity, owning your electricity, rather than renting it from your utility forever. It's a great way to hedge against rising utility rates. Usually, utility rates rise 2 to 3% a year, but last year they went up like 8-9% because of the crisis in Ukraine and natural gas prices spiking all over the globe. But you know, the price of the sun did not go up. So you, as a solar homeowner, you're really hedged against, pardon me, really hedged against the rising prices, you know, for a global commodity such as gas and coal and those types of things. And in Virginia, the average return on investment is, you know, 9 to 13 years. If electricity prices continue to increase, that ROI will actually be even faster. And so again, for a 25-year lifespan, you're going to have paid it off in half that time, and then the other, you know, 10 to 15 years, you're really just generating free electricity. So if you want to break down the cost of solar, obviously the system components has come down. The cost of labor has come down a little bit, but what hasn't come down very much is the soft costs, and that's really where the solar co-op comes in. I mean, soft cost is about companies, you know, going and educating and finding potential solar consumers just like yourselves, and that's what we're here for. We're providing this service, and that's how we're able to bring down the cost and get such a bulk discount, is because we're able to significantly reduce the soft cost for the solar installer. Here's an example pricing sheet. I don't want you to get lost in the numbers. There's a whole lot of them, but really I just want you to be able to understand how much the system costs and how you're going to pay it back. Let's look at the right-hand column, which is 8 kW. Again, that's about the average system size here in Virginia. So we got a sample price of $275 a watt for 8,000 watts. So it's $22,000. The great news about solar It's not like buying a car or something else where you go there to buy it and they're hitting you with this fee and that fee and everything else. This is turnkey price, $22,000 all in, boom, there you go. If you are eligible for a 30% federal tax credit, you would be able to get $6,600 back on your taxes. Important to know, this will be when you pay your taxes, not at the point of sale. So if you were getting solar today in June of 2023, you could get a 30% federal tax credit next, February, March, April, when you are filing your taxes. And you're only eligible to get this tax credit if you have federal tax liability significant enough, for $6,600. If you have no federal tax liability, you wouldn't be able to qualify. This is not a refund, but is a federal tax credit. There's no Virginia tax credit. This is federal. So important to note, again, it's when you file your taxes, the following year. If you get your solar installed anytime between now and December 31st, you would be able to take that tax credit next year. But if you didn't get solar until January, February of 2024, it would be 2025 tax year when you're able to take that tax credit. All right, so that's hopefully clear as mud right there. So we kind of net cost of $15,400. One big way where you're going to pay this back is on your savings on electricity. We're very conservative in our numbers. We put $1,100 in 1 year with the conservative growth in the cost of electricity. We have that up over $11,000 in 10 years and over $32,000 in 25 years. And then there's also what's called the Solar Renewable Energy Credit, or an SREC. As someone that generates renewable energy in the Commonwealth of Virginia, you are generating a commodity. There are businesses out there, there's the Commonwealth of Virginia out there that needs to generate renewable energy to satisfy laws or the Virginia Clean Economy Act, or if they're a data center or something else, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, etc., and they want to power all their operations in Virginia with renewable energy, you can kind of sell them your solar, and they can take credit for it, literally, and it's a renewable energy credit. So you're in essence waiving your right to claim it, but they'll pay you for it. It works on the market just like Wall Street or whatnot, and you would get a trader or broker. This is a pretty conservative price. We put $9,000 as kind of a lump sum payment. You can also do it quarterly. You could do it annually. You could do it for 3 years, 5 years. There's all different ways to do it. And there's about 3 or 4 different brokers that can educate you on solar renewable energy credits. I think we might have a packet on that as well that I have Roger put in the chat. Again, the important thing to know, you're paying it back with A, the revenue generated from solar renewable energy credit, B, the savings that you're going to get on your electricity bill month over month, and then also the 30% federal tax credit. And you can see the numbers we have here. Ultimately, your profit is $26,000 over 25 years. And so, but again, it's really important to know, how all these things work. It's important to do these things. I mean, I've talked to people that didn't know they had solar renewable energy credits and just let them sit there for a few years. And so, and the tax credit's also really important to understand how that works. But that's how solar works, and that's how the price pays you back, and that's how the return on investment works. As I mentioned, the federal tax credit is 30%. Great news with the Inflation Reduction Act of last year. Before that, it was set to sunset. It had gone down 26 to 22, and there was going to be 0 this year. But the Inflation Reduction Act actually bumped it back up to 30% for the next 10 years. And so that is really good news. And then how do you pay for it? Well, obviously you could take $22,000 in cash if you have that. That's probably the easiest way to do it. But many people don't have that. And so there's a lot of other options. You could take a home equity line of credit. You could refinance your home, and it includes solar. There's also many other kinds of loans you can get. Your typical loan from a bank. Your solar installer is certainly going to offer financing through a handful of various financing companies that work on solar installations specifically. And then there's actually even a couple of credit unions out there that focus either on just on solar or on various clean energy products like electric vehicles as well. And you're a member of both of those as part of being a member of the co-op if you so choose. So there's the Clean Energy Credit Union and Community First Credit Union. We do have a financing guide that'll have Roger drop into the chat, and I will pause for any questions.
Cool. Everything is in the chat and no questions. Thanks, Ben.
All right, thanks, Roger. So what do you do next? Well, first and foremost, we encourage you to be a smart consumer. And the best way to be a smart consumer is to join the co-op. Well, really the best way is to attend this. So you've checked off box number 1. You spend an hour, just about an hour learning about solar, and you are more educated and more empowered than just about anybody else on the street. So kudos to you for being a smart consumer. Again, we encourage you to join the co-op. There is no cost to join the co-op. There's no obligation to join the co-op. But you just have to kind of throw your name in the hopper so that you will have access to the co-op pricing when it does become available. Again, we should be convening the selection committee probably in a couple months. We need to kind of get critical mass, or really just getting started. But the sooner we get critical mass in there, the sooner we can select an installer, and that can be done from your help, right? Not only join the co-op yourself, but encourage your friends and family to join the co-op. It's open to the entire Hampton Roads region. So, Williamsburg, James City County, down I-64, all the way to Virginia Beach, looping down around to Chesapeake and Portsmouth and Suffolk, even up to Northampton County, Yorktown, all sorts of stuff like that is all included in the co-op in the region that it serves. So if you know anyone in the 7 cities or a little bit beyond, we encourage you to have them join the co-op. Again, you'll get this in an email probably tomorrow. You're welcome to shoot the email with this webinar into it, or into your friends and neighbors so they can watch as well. Additionally, we have the Facebook page. You're welcome to join that. Virginia's Solar United Neighbors Facebook page, and our listserv if you want to get really technical and wonky. And the website, again, solarunitedneighbors.org. That's our website. If you just do /HR for Hampton Roads /HR 2023, you go straight there to the co-op and you can enter your information there to join the co-op. So again, tell your friends and neighbors, be a smart consumer. We're thrilled that you're here, and want to say thank you. If you need to reach out to me or anyone else in Virginia, you're always able to email us at VA, like VA for Virginia, VA team at solarunitedneighbors.org. Again, that's VA team at solarunitedneighbors.org. We are here to help you, here to educate you, here to empower you, here to hold your hand through the process of going solar. So I'll check in one more time with Roger to see if there's any final questions.
No final questions. Thanks so much, Ben.
All right. Well, thank you, Roger. And thanks everybody for joining. And again, you should get this PowerPoint presentation webinar in an email in the coming days. And we hope you join the co-op. And again, tell your friends, family, and neighbor. And hopefully we'll see you in person sometime in Hampton Roads at one of our happy hours or something else. So thanks again and have a great evening.